Welcome to the Focus Today podcast with Perry Atkinson.
Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and I'm delighted to have back with us today Peter Navarro. He is a former White House official in the Trump administration, the author of a new book entitled Taking Back Trump's America. Interesting twist there, and we'll talk more about that. By the way, PeterNavarro.com is the website, and you can go there. Peter, good to see you. How are you?
Perry, it's great to be back with the Dove and you. And how am I doing? I'm doing better than the economy and our national security and just about everything else, our school systems that the Biden regime is messing up, and I'm energized, Perry. My mission with this Taking Back Trump's America book is to first do one thing, which is to take back the speaker's gavel from the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi so they stop doing so much damage to our political system. And then 2024, of course, we get the banner of Trumpism flying back over the West Wing there in the White House. And it's so important based on what we're seeing. I mean, I'm an economist by training. I think you know that, Perry. And this whole, it's just not inflation, it's stagflation. It's the inflation coupled with the slow growth recession that remind you and I are old enough to remember the 1970s when we were afflicted with that. We got that. We've got an invasion on our southern border. We've got a mess in Europe with Russia. We've got China threatening to take Taiwan. And, I mean, do we not long for the good old days, the 4 years of the Trump administration, when life was prosperous and safe?
You look so healthy and energized for what you've been through. What do you put on your cereal in the morning?
well, what I had to do at least one of those mornings back in June is put on leg irons, courtesy of the FBI. And this is the Injustice Department behind me on the right here off screen. You can just barely see it. Is the FBI, and I think at least some of your viewers are going to know that I was arrested by 5 armed FBI agents. The only more over the top action was the recent raid on Mar-a-Lago. They are related, and I've been accused of failing to comply with a congressional subpoena. And look, it's a constitutional issue where the president invokes what they call executive privilege, not my privilege to waive. And I told these folks on Capitol Hill that, and instead what they did was they instead of taking me from this building right here, 50 yards away from where I stand right now, they let me get all the way to the airport, grabbed me in a jetway with 5 armed FBI agents, and I wound up in leg iron strip searched and put in the same cell, and they love to tell me this, that John Hinckley was put in when he shot Reagan. I guess there's an equivalence there somehow. Me, who helped Trump save hundreds of thousands of lives and create hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs, and John Hinckley. So the Taking Back Trump's America book, ironically, now also triples as my legal defense fund. And this stuff is expensive. I mean, I've already had to shell out over $400,000 in legal fees for a misdemeanor, and these people want to put me in prison for standing up to our Constitution. So, yeah, I'm a bit energized here, Perry.
Okay, so let's jump into a couple things here. What's your take on the latest DOJ filings as it relates to Mar-a-Lago?
Obviously, I'm watching that very, very carefully. I think there's a really strong analogy between what's going on in my world with the DOJ and what's going on in President Trump's world. And one of the common threads we have is this obscure agency called the National Archives, which appears to be working in league with the Department of Justice to go over the top do things. They filed a civil case against me, and with Trump, he was cooperating as I was, and yet both Donald Trump and I wound up with armed agents at our door. The only difference between Trump and I is I guess maybe it's his befitting his stature. They used automatic weapons, and me, they just had handguns. But, my take on this is that their mission, Perry, is to prevent Donald Trump from running for president and winning in 2024. And my mission in the Taking Back Trump's America book is to stop him from doing that. And this is, people of America are not going to stand for what's going on here.
If the DOJ had something that warranted their action, why haven't they pressed it to the conclusion?
Look, I can't pierce the veil of what's going on there other than to say that, first of all, it was an over-the-top raid. There was absolutely no reason for them to go in with armed weapons when the president was bending over backward to cooperate with them. Okay, everything screams to me from what's going on at Mar-a-Lago is a way of trying to stop Trump from running. I guess I'm cursed with the ability to read legal documents at this point for obvious reasons. And the first thing I did when they went into Mar-a-Lago was read the underlying statutes that justified the raid. And what jumped out at me immediately was this little clause there. It says that if you willfully damage or hide documents, you can't run for office. Okay? Right there in black and white. So you don't have to look very far what their intentions are. And it's something I think the American people across both sides of the aisle now are scratching their heads at, this dual system of justice. My own case, Perry, I don't know if you know this, I am literally the only person in the history of our republic, close advisor, alter ego to the president, who's ever been charged with this charge that they're filed against me. Nobody else. I mean, it has huge constitutional implications. So it's clear what they're trying to do. They're trying to put Trump in a position where he can't be president, and I'm collateral damage.
Okay, there's a lot here, Peter. So do you think at the end they come up with an indictment? Either the January 6th committee recommends one, or the DOJ now with their raid actually comes up with one? Do you think in time they actually come up with one?
Logic and the law would say no, but that doesn't seem to be driving their actions. I mean, if you look, let me go back in history to kind of do like the 6 years of what essentially has been an attempted preemptive coup before the 2016 election, an actual coup by the FBI during the 2020 election, and now another preemptive coup to try to prevent Trump from winning. And what do I say about that? If you look at just the FBI, remember, right over here, 50 yards, field goal away from where I sit, I was in the campaign after we won in the transition at Trump Tower when the FBI began the whole Russia hoax. And the Russia hoax was the brainchild of Hillary Clinton and some Democratic operatives. And during the campaign, it was designed to take down Trump. That was a preemptive coup. When that failed, that hoax was perpetuated. And we know who these people are. You had Strzok and Page and Comey, top leadership of the FBI, right? And they used that hoax to try to impeach Trump, to try to tar him with brushes and take him down before he could run in 2020. When that didn't work, the latest revelation, Perry, we got is Mark Zuckerberg goes on a national podcast and reveals that the FBI purposely told Facebook and presumably Twitter to suppress all of the information they knew to be accurate about the foreign misdealings, pornography, and crack cocaine related to Hunter Biden, president's son. And the polls tell us that if people had known about that, Trump would be in the White House. So that was a successful coup by the FBI. And now we got the preemptive coup again with all this Mar-a-Lago raid. And then there's others, like Manafort, campaign manager in 2016, winds up in prison. George Papadopoulos, entrapped, winds up in prison. Mike Flynn, one of the great patriots of this country, winds up being forced out of his job as a National Security Advisor days after he took it, deprived Trump of the advice he needed. And that's all on the FBI and collaterally, in many cases, the Justice Department. And don't forget Roger Stone's Frogman raid leaked to CNN when they come in at dawn with guns already. I mean, so, well, let me ask you this, Perry. You know what the definition of an insurrectionist is in Webster's dictionary?
No.
It's armed people trying to overthrow the, quote, constituted authority, right? By that definition, is the FBI not the insurrectionists? They're armed agents. Trump was the constituted authority. They overthrew him, and they've been trying to overthrow him. So a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I get back to the Taking Back Trump's America book. Its mission is to get back the House for Republicans so we in January can start answering these questions and holding these people accountable in public hearings, and they will be public, unlike the Select Committee hearings.
So, Peter, a big question here, because I have a lot more to ask, but a big question here. Does America survive this?
If we do not take back Trump's America, and Trump's America to me means a country that is allowed to worship God, that has a decent job at a decent wage, it doesn't have to worry about an invasion on the southern border, that has peace in the world with Russia and China and North Korea and Iran like we had in the Trump years. If we don't get back the House in November, then game over, okay? Because if Pelosi stays in there, she's not only going to do her profligate spending, they're going to continue these witch hunts trying to take Trump out and any Republicans who dare to stand up to him. This is a serious situation. I think your viewers understand it. I don't want to get people depressed in any way. I want to get you motivated. In the Taking Back Trump's America book, we got the canon of Steve Bannon. It's action, action, action. Get out and help a candidate somewhere at a school board or at a governor or in a congressional race that supports your values and can make a difference.
Amen. I so agree with that. One other quick question before I take a break. You worked inside the White House with President Trump. How could you summarize that experience?
Well, that's why I wrote 2 books so far. And the Taking Back Trump's America book really is a summary of how we not only succeeded in the first term, but at times screwed up. I would summarize Donald Trump as being the smartest, warmest, most compassionate person I've ever had the privilege to sit in a room with time after time after time. And he's a man that has this country's interests at heart. He's made his money. He's had his career. The only thing he cares about are the American people. And when I'm talking about the American people, I'm not talking about the hedge fund managers on Wall Street. I'm talking about black, brown, and blue-collar Americans who simply want a decent life and a family and being able to live in peace. And not a lot of people living in peace right now. We got an uneasy peace.
Yeah. Let me take a quick break. Checked out his new book called Taking Back Trump's America. There's a picture of the cover of his new book there on the television screen for those watching on the Dove TV network. And, of course, PeterNavarro.com is the website. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
We'll be back to this week's interview in just a few seconds. In the meantime, we want to let you know that you can watch this interview, plus many more exclusive interviews that happen this week on the Dove's Daily TV and radio show by visiting our website, thedove.us. And while you're there, sign up for our free daily devotional, The Word for You Today. 3 months of daily readings that will connect you with God's Word. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back. Of course, buckle your seatbelts. Always great to have with us Peter Navarro, and he's a former White House official there in the Trump administration, author of his latest book. It's a must-read, Taking Back Trump's America. And there's a lot in this one. You want to check it out. PeterNavarro.com is his website. I'm sure it's available at all of the outlets online. All right, Peter, there's no doubt that President Trump, a very successful, smart businessman, tough, but in the business world, you got to be tough and smart. He's probably one of the first presidents that I know, or anybody I could say in public life, that know what it is and how to read a P&L and a balance sheet.
Yeah.
But was he smart in hiring people? And I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about you.
One of the central lessons of the Taking Back Trump's America book is a refinement of the old Ronald Reagan saw that personnel is policy. In Reagan's day, it was the admonition that if you hire the wrong people, you'll get the wrong policies. And Reagan learned not to do that from Richard Nixon, actually, because as the great Pat Buchanan has written eloquently about, there was just too many liberals in the Nixon White House that derailed the Nixon agenda. So fast forward to the Trump administration, and in the Taking Back Trump's America book, I go back to the beginning of Inauguration Day and talk about how bad personnel created not just bad policies, but also the kind of bad politics that would lead to a set of strategic failures by these bad personnel who let President Trump down and made that election close enough that Trump would lose it. And the problem, the original sin of that administration in a secular context was to welcome in the Republicans in name only wing of the Republican Party, who would then systematically begin to subvert the Trump paradigm. One of the things that I think is most interesting about the Taking Back Trump's America book is my explanation of the difference between Trump Republicans and the rhinos. It's like the Trump Republicans and rhinos agree, Perry, on things like tax cuts and a low tax burden, a low regulatory burden, strategic energy dominance. Republicans of all stripes can rally around those flags. But what sets Trump Republicans apart is what I call the iron MAGA triangle of an end to endless wars, secure borders, and most of all, what I worked on was fair trade with the rest of the world so we could keep our manufacturing jobs here. And what happened was President Trump, particularly early on, just put too many of these globalist rhinos, Wall Street transactionalists, in charge of key policy levers. And then he and I, literally, and often it was just he and I, after Bannon left, would be the ones fighting for the steel and aluminum tariffs, fighting for the China tariffs. And meanwhile, they were, I named names, not shy about that. Tillerson at State, Mattis at Defense, big mistakes. Kelly, a chief of staff, big mistake. Gary Cohn as the National Economic Council director, big mistake. And it was a constant battle that I had to wage over 4 years in the trenches with these bad personnel. And I think one of the great things we've got to do if we can get Trump back in the White House is make sure past is not prologue. That is, that those hiring decisions have to be just spot on so that we can move forward with an agenda that's reflective of what Trump actually believes.
Are you been talking to him?
We talk. I made it a policy never to talk about tell discuss how frequently I talk to him, what I talk about. But yeah, and he's in great spirits. I mean, he's raring to go, and I'd be the most surprised person in the world if his hat weren't in the ring, and sooner rather than later. And there's a at the end of the book, I have a proposed dream cabinet, as well as people I think should be in the West Wing, both old blood who did good jobs during the first term and some new blood. I also recommend that DeSantis be his VP choice sooner rather than later, to kind of lock up the nomination, clear the field, and allow us to focus on the mission at hand. So we'll see. As the boss loves to say, let's see what happens.
Okay. Do you think the raid, Peter, into Mar-a-Lago was enough to bring back the Republicans that don't like President Trump as a person?
Look, I think there's not going to be an issue with party unity. Joe Biden has a lot more to do with it than the raid. I think what the raid has done is galvanize a lot of the independents for Trump. The Republicans are united behind him. And by the way, my role in the White House in many ways was to push forward policies that ultimately benefited blue-collar Democrats, the manufacturing workers. Reagan won with those Reagan Democrats, and Trump can win with that kind of support as well. So I think that going forward, Trump is in a very strong position, and it's not by accident. It's by decisions made not only by the White House, but by other agencies of the Biden regime.
Does he get in before or after the midterm?
I think at this point, we're so close to the midterms that he'll probably wait. But that's not to say he's not actively involved. I get back to the mission of the Taking Back Trump's America book. In the short run, we got to get the House back, and I've got an entire chapter on why that's important. There's a fascinating chapter in Taking Back Trump's America, how we blew it in 2018 because of bad personnel. We focused too much on the Senate. We could have won the House and held the House. It was just, they grabbed it by just a few seats. But once Pelosi and Schiff and Raskin got a hold of the powers of Congress, they began to abuse those investigatory powers in a way which blatantly crosses the line on constitutional issues, including separation of powers, bills of attainder, and all sorts of stuff.
Has Senator McConnell thrown in the towel for the Senate?
McConnell does not do well in Taking Back Trump's America. I rip him rightly from stem to stern, and people need to know that man, from day one in 2017 after inauguration, did everything he could to delay the Trump agenda. Yeah, we got a lot of judges done. That was Mitch's focus, and that's what Trump wanted to do. But boy, Mitch prevented us from getting Trump appointees in the bureaucracy so we could control the deep state. And Mitch was adamantly opposed to all the MAGA policies, the securing the border and the fair trade. He's a tool of the globalist Wall Street money crowd. Mitch had no business saying what he did publicly. And I don't know what game he's playing. He's past his prime, and he ought to be the hell out of there as leader.
The president, Peter, is supposedly planning a speech from Constitutional Hall aimed at the mega Republicans, and that somehow they are a threat to democracy and to the republic. We've never seen this before from a president going after a portion of the electorate and calling them the cancer of the culture, so to speak.
Yeah.
What's your take on this?
Well, they did use the F word as well, fascist. Joe Biden called you and me fascists, okay? In the Taking Back Trump's America book, I explain what populist economic nationalism is. That's the essence of MAGA. It's simply that what we care about first is America. And in order to care about that, we have to have our manufacturing jobs here. We have to stop the invasion on our southern border. And we can't be spending, we're spending tens and tens of billions of dollars in Ukraine, and we can't even keep a water system going in Mississippi. It's just, what's wrong with that picture? And the idea that Joe Biden would call us fascists, that's just inflaming passions in a needless way when we're already very disturbed by the actions of the Biden regime, including putting me in leg irons, a small thing, and raiding Mar-a-Lago, a big thing.
Again, thank you for your time. This is fascinating. One other question that goes back to your training and your passion. Do we recover as an economy?
It's going to take, this is not good. You can't flip a switch on this, Perry. In the Taking Back Trump's America book, I document how I wrote a memo in May of 2020 warning of stagflation if we did not begin the process of securing our supply chains on U.S. soil and manufacturing here. That's the linchpin of it, coupled with strategic energy dominance. If we don't become energy independent again, and we don't manufacture here, it's going to be a decade like it was in the 70s before we right this ship. But we got to start now. Action, action, action. Let's win in November, folks. So make sure you not only get out and vote in November, but you also help a candidate. Kerry Lake in Arizona for governor. Tudor Dixon for governor in Michigan. Doug Mastriano for governor Pennsylvania. Joe Kent in Washington for Congress. The secretaries of states, Mark Fincham in Arizona. Christina Caralla in Michigan. This is what we need to do. We need to take back the reins of power from reckless people.
Where can they get your book, Peter?
Amazon.com. It's a little challenge to the group here. Help me get that ranking up to #1 on Amazon. It will help us fulfill the mission of taking back Trump's America, and it will help in terms of my legal fight as well. So PeterNavarro.com, one-stop shop, or go directly to Amazon, Taking Back Trump's America. Perry, it's great to be with you again, and I wish you the best of luck.
Well, God bless you, friend. What's ahead for you? What battle do you have to go through next?
Well, I'm committed to the mission, and that's taking back the House under Republican leadership in November, and then come January, let's get to the bottom of what's going on here with this dual system of justice, this partisan weaponization of our government, and then let's make sure we get Trump in the White House under the banner of MAGA in January of 2025. That would be a great day for America.
All right.
My job will be done at that point if we get those two things.
Thank you, Peter. Good to see you. God bless you, friend.
I'm a brother.
All right,
take care. God bless you.
Stay healthy. Okay.
God bless America.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to this week's Focus Today podcast. And join us next Thursday and every Thursday to catch the latest episode. Remember, you can visit our website to check out all the interviews we did this week on our daily Focus Today TV show at thedove.us. And if you like this podcast, please take a moment to rate us and share it with your friends.